So I have decided to make a video again. I like watching YouTube anyway. So I have always wanted to make a video on my call of my engagement and lessons I learned. So recently I was talking to a friend of mine. She's young. She's like what? She's 20, 26. And she was just saying how she's stuck in this relationship with this guy, and she fears that this guy may propose, and she doesn't know what she will do when the guy proposes, because she's scared of calling the proposal off. She doesn't know what she'll do, and it just really actually reminded me of my own experience. So I was engaged to be married. Yes. Almost 3 years ago. It's been a while. Like, I really, really forget. Anyway, so I was engaged to get married, and I was going to get married on my birthday. Yes, I like my birthday that much. So my birthday is on 23rd September, so the wedding was going to be on 23rd September. I got engaged in a very lovely way at a friend's wedding. I know. It was a friend. A friend was getting married, and he asked for permission from her to actually do the engagement at her wedding. So we were supposed, as I think they set up, so I didn't have my specs, so I couldn't see her at that time. So I couldn't see him kneeling. Then I came, I walked in, and he was kneeling, and it was really nice and thoughtful. But I was shocked. Like, I didn't expect it. I didn't see it coming. So yeah. Anyway, so we got engaged, and after like I think 6 months into or 5 months into the engagement, I called it off for reasons that came up, and I was like, you know what, no. So what did I learn from my engagement? So I wrote them down on my phone, so I'll be looking on my phone. Anyway, so the first lesson, that I made an Instagram post about this some years back, but I just realized that, you know, like, the whole idea of calling off engagements it's like people don't talk about it, you know, and yet usually you can see some red signs, some red flags, and if you can like run away before you actually commit to the marriage, better a broken engagement than a broken marriage. That's what I used to say to my friends. Anyway, so my first lesson that I learned is that, one, you need to know your deal breakers. So when I started my relationship with my ex fiance, we always used to talk about it. Like, he knew my deal breakers, and they were not unrealistic, but for me, integrity is very, very important to me. So we had set down some parameters of things that this is very important, and this for me really is a no-go area. And so he wasn't shocked. In fact, he knew that when the situation came up, he wasn't going to fight it, because he knew how we both stood, what our position was. And then the second one is, what I learned is, you have to have a sense of self-worth. You know, because if you're in this relationship with this guy, or if you're engaged with this guy, and you feel like the engagement or the relationship is your end and all, like if that's your identity, if that's who you truly, that's what you think defines you, then you end up staying in a situation that does not favor you, or doesn't bring you joy, simply because you find your identity in that other person or in that situation. So for me, that was the second lesson I learned, that it's very, very important to have a sense of self-worth. And for me, my sense of self-worth really comes from God. So yeah. And then the third one that I learned was, it's important to have value, to know your values and hold them close, and to also have a discussion with your partner right from the start, what both of you value, you know, because if your value system is very different from your partner's value system, definitely you'll both be pulling in different directions. So for me, I realized that when I was sitting down and just crying and going through the emotions, I realized that our value system at some point sort of, you know, we're not on the same page, and it was difficult. I knew it was the right decision to make, to call off the engagement, because a few years down the road, it would have been very, very difficult for us to actually have a life together if both of us don't see life the same. And this is what, for me, it was on a core issue. There's things that you don't have to see the same everything, but there's core you have, when I said you have to know your deal breakers, the core things that you know you can't do without. Yeah. So for me, that was a very important thing to know. But also, another important thing that I learned, my friends will laugh when they see this, is it's important to allow your friends to ask you the hard questions about your relationship and your personal growth in this relationship. So so when the events leading to the calling of the engagement is, I had found out a few things here and there, but then I didn't know about some others. So I had been praying about this. I'm like, God, I need to make a decision. Is this the right thing? I started being anxious. I'd lost my peace about the whole relationship. So what happened is that some of my friends actually sort of called. We had not an intervention, but there's things that they had seen, there's things that they had heard, things that they had experienced themselves, that they called me and sat me down and said, you know what, look, this is, you think it is A, but the reality is actually B. This and this is happening, and this is what we are seeing, this is what we have experienced. Because now there's conversations that they had had with my fiancé without me being there, and I didn't know about them. There were actions that my fiancé had done that I was not aware. So for me, in my world, it was A. In reality, it was actually B. So I realized that it's very important to not, of course, not every friend, you shouldn't allow your relationship to be open to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. But I think that you all have those friends. We all have those friends who we know have been with you. They wish you well, and they're sort of your ears and like your third person, sort of, So it was, for me, it was, I was happy that they told me. It hurt in the beginning. I was embarrassed. I was hurt. I was like, oh my God, but I'm glad that actually that happened, because then it allowed me to make that decision from an informed point of view. And it was, for me, an answered prayer. Like God was actually answering my prayer and revealing all the things all the doubts that I had in mind, So it's very important that you allow your circle of friends, the ones that you call your dear friends, to ask you the hard questions. Because I must say that was a very difficult conversation for us to have. It was on 31st, I remember. Was it 31st or first? Towards the end of the year, 3 years ago, and they called me, and then we sat, and oh my God, you should have seen me, like, even the thought of it. Anyway. Yes, then I think also that the last thing that I learned is that you and your partner, or you and your fiancé or whomever, both of you have to be willing to ask yourselves the hard questions, even when it hurts, because sometimes I'm a peacemaker. I hate conflict. I hate being there, and like you're in such an awkward situation with your guy and things that you just I hate it. Even with my friends, if I can avoid a conversation, I used to, but now I'm learning that it doesn't benefit both of you to just sweep things under the carpet. You actually must ask each other the hard questions. So I'm a huge fan of Esther Perel. She is what do I call her? She's like a marriage counselor. So I like listening to her podcasts and her things. So, and one of the things she talks about is being able to have the hard conversations between the both of you. So when I found out about the situation with my fiancé, he wasn't cheating, just so we are clear. Yeah, whenever I talk about situations, people are like, oh, maybe he was cheating. Like when I call off the engagement, everyone's like, did he cheat on you? I'm like, you guys, we have normalized cheating so much that we think the only reason people call off relationships is because of cheating. No, cheating was never our struggle. It was never our hustle. It was a whole different thing that I could not put up with. And the reason I don't talk about the reasons why I called my engagement off to everyone is because to some people they'll be like, only that is not an issue, and yet for you it's a big issue that you cannot stand. So I think that's why I say each one has to have their own deal breakers, and we should not judge people for their own deal, for their list. Anyway, I digress. What was I saying? Oh yes, asking the hard questions. So yeah, so I really had a hard conversation with my fiancé and asked him before I called off the engagement. So I asked him to tell me the truth, tell me what's going on, and and it was painful for me to hear it, because then I realized he had lied to me. He had not come clean. He you know, and yet we are like, we thought we were going to build a life together. But if I had not asked that questions, I would not have known, and I would not have known how deep the issue is, you know. And I realized that it was what when my friends were telling me was just on the surface, but there was still much more that we discovered as we had the conversation, and we both agreed that, you know what, this is not going to work now. It's not going in the direction that I wanted to go. And it was so then it was, I called off the engagement, I think 2 weeks to the first traditional ceremony that we have. And so I called him. I know I didn't do it the right way. I should have probably met him face to face, but I was also hurting and he was hurting, and you know, like there's no rule book to how to call off an engagement. Like you won't find a rule book that says this is how you call off an engagement. Like, you know how, like, people talk about divorce, this is how you start a divorce, but no one talks about how do you call off an engagement. Like, it's very difficult. How do you start? So anyway, so I just picked up the phone and called him. I know I shouldn't have done, but I had no other option because we're not meeting and I didn't want to see him. So I told him, you know what, my dear, his parents were supposed to, and a few of his family were supposed to come to meet my family, and we had organized, we had a family meeting, like we had even made down payments, I'd finished getting my gown. Jeez, I had my decor, I had already stressed my friends with the colors they're going to wear. Yeah, like I was like, because I love weddings, truth be told, I can't, yeah. And anyway, so I called him and told him that, you know what, please tell the parents not to come, because I don't think we should go ahead with the traditional visit, because I do not think this engagement should stand. So I told him I need space, I need some time to think about what my final decision will be, but for now, there's no visit, there's no ceremony, nothing. Then, like, after 3 days, I knew, like, with certainty that this, first of all, my sister had been having dreams, I had been praying, and I had just really gotten confirmation, you know, from God that this is not really what I should be doing. And I just didn't have peace, like, I didn't have peace about it. So I just said, you know what, I called him after 3 days, I said, you know what, I know I said that I'm thinking, but actually I lied. The truth is, we cannot work this out, so I want to get some time to give you back your ring. Hey guys, do you think he accepted the ring? Of course he was angry anyway, so he said, oh no, it's fine, please keep the ring, it was a gift to you. He was gracious in the beginning, but of course, understandably, like anyone who's hurt, like I was also hurt, words were exchanged, and names were, I was called a few names here and there. But in hindsight, I must say we tried to keep it civil, and after some time we met, like I think almost after 5 months, we met for the first time, and we had a face-to-face conversation, and we talked about it. We said, you know what, things happened, but we had a friendship that was over 10 years that we should not just throw down the drain, you know, randomly. So we agreed to be cordial and to be civil, and so we are civil. I've not talked to him in a while now, but a few years ago we used to talk a little bit more often. Now it's been a while, and I must say I do not regret anything. Like, when I look back, it was the best decision I could ever make, because every time on my birthday I sort of I start to reflect and imagine how my life would have been with that decision if I'd chosen to get married, and it would have taken a whole different turn. Because right now I feel like I'm exactly where God wants me to be. I was able to pursue my PhD. I'm having my dream job, which I would never have been able to do if I'd gotten married at that time. Probably I'd been now a mother of maybe one. I don't know where I would be. Like, I don't know if I would still be working or not. Like, you know, who knows? Maybe I would maybe I would be divorced, or I would have run away from him. Like, it would have been a whole different mess. Like, families would be involved, now children. Like, so I really, really thank God for that decision. I thank God for the courage, because everyone kept saying, oh my God, you're so courageous, you're so courageous. But more so, I was really, really blessed to have a good circle of friends and family. Like, my mom and brother was super supportive. The moment I told my brother there's no there's no kuchala, there's nothing, he said, okay, what is the problem? I told him, he said, oh, no, that's fine. Like, they were so supportive. My grandmother, they were every day in my house visiting me. My friends were visiting me, making sure I'm okay. Like, guys, I was just loved upon. And I think a year down, like, so I said, God, marriage, let me give these things a break. And then almost like, I think a year later, I moved to another church, because we used to be in the same church. I moved to another church, go to another community. So now I think almost a year after, I go for a sale and I'm praying and everything, and then one of the pastors just starts to prophesy and starts saying, she started asking if I'm dating. At that time, I wasn't really dating. I was in between friendships. You guys get, like, while you're sort of learning, you're hanging out with people, but it's not like official. They don't ask you out, so you sort of like them, but you're not sure, like, Anyway, so I was just sort of having friends, guy friends that I sort of was crushing on, but nothing really serious. Anyway, so the pastor started to prophesy about my wedding, my marriage. Well, I'm not yet married. I don't have a boyfriend yet, but like, every time I am in that space, I'm reminded of that prophecy. So it's amazing what God can do. And so for all those of you who are just scared, and like, if you're stuck in a relationship and you do not know what to do, sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to just muster up courage, do your own personal assessment, and just, and walk away. Because I made my decision. No one influenced me. I remember I was in my office, so I like listening to TED Talks. And I think at that time, I listened to a TED Talk, and one of the key messages, I forget what was exactly, but it was, what would you do if you were not scared? So I had written a sticker note and put on my laptop. So when I was thinking through, this thing came back to me, and I looked at the sticker note, and I asked myself, what would you do, Priscilla, if you were not scared? If you didn't care what people are going to say, what your church friends will say, what what your family, what your own friends will say, what you yourself, what your own fear will say. If you are not scared, or ceteris paribus, as we used to say in high school, what would you do? And honestly, when I searched myself, guys, I knew at the heart, deep down, that what would I do? And the answer was, I would walk away. I didn't think twice. The answer came to me, I would walk away. Then I said, okay, so if you would walk away, what are you waiting for? Do you want to walk away 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, or do you want to walk away now? Guys, we had even done marital counseling. That's how far we had gone. And we did this program called Ndoa, and it is so beautiful. Like, it was just such an eye-opener. We had come up with our own marriage motto, our marriage mission. Like, I feel like we had really advanced in terms of our planning. We're opening a joint account. So there was many reasons for me to stay. Like, my family knew him. We had generally, like, why your lives are entangled, like, everything. But then I realized that deep down, when I strip away all society's expectations and, what I wanted deep down as Priscilla at that time was to walk away. And I said, you know what? I have prayed about this. I'm not sleeping. I said that let me walk away. So that's my engagements, my post-engagement, pre-engagement, post-engagement, whatever. But anyway, so thanks for listening, and ciao.